I was never meant to work the late shift. For as long as I had been at the motel, my job had been simple: morning check-ins, afternoon checkouts, and the occasional lost key. My shift ended at sunset, and once I walked out those doors, I didn't think about the place until the next day. That was the routine. That was how it was supposed to be. But that night, something changed. The manager stopped me just as I was gathering my things. He didn't meet my eyes at first, just fumbled with a set of keys on his desk. His fingers trembled slightly as he slid them toward me. "You're staying tonight," he muttered, his voice flat. I frowned. "Why?" He finally looked up, but his eyes were wrong. Empty, distant, like he wasn't really seeing me at all. "The night guy didn't show," he said. "You're the only one who can do it." I wanted to argue, but something about the way he stared through me stole the words from my tongue. A chill ran down my spine. Before I could protest, he grabbed his coat and walked out the door. Just like that, I was alone. By 10:45 p.m., I was sitting at the front desk, staring at the faded wallpaper and cracked tiles of the outdated lobby. The motel felt different at night, heavier, like something unseen lurked beneath the surface, waiting. The walls groaned with slow, rhythmic creaks, almost like breathing. The fluorescent lights flickered, buzzing just enough to put me on edge. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Just a few more hours. I had to kill time somehow. I opened the desk drawers, sifting through clutter. The first held crumpled receipts and an old motel guest book stained with coffee rings. The second, a stapler and a few loose papers. Then I reached the bottom drawer. It was already open, just a crack. I frowned. Had it been open earlier? Slowly, I pulled it all the way out. Inside was only one thing. A tape recorder. Old, bulky, yellowed with age. A cassette was inside. Its label was faded, but I could still make out the shaky, uneven handwriting. "Do not erase." A strange feeling crept up my spine. I didn't know why, but I suddenly didn't want to touch it. The drawer had been slightly open. As if someone had left it that way on purpose. As if they wanted me to find it. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the recorder. Then, against my better judgment, I reached out. My fingers barely brushed the plastic when a gust of cold air rushed past me. I jerked back. The motel door was shut. The windows were closed. There was no draft. I swallowed hard. My heart pounded, but curiosity was stronger than fear. Slowly, I pressed play. Static crackled through the tiny speaker before a voice emerged, low, strained, exhausted. "If you're listening to this, that means you're on the night shift." The voice was male, tense, barely holding something worse than fear at bay. "I don't know how much time I have left. But if someone else gets stuck here, maybe this will help." A pause. The silence between his words felt heavier than the static. "There are things in this motel at night. Things that shouldn't be here." Another pause. A long, dreadful pause. I didn't know the rules. I had to learn the hard way. Then, 3 slow knocks echoed from the tape. I shivered. The first time I heard the knocking, I thought it was a guest. The voice on the tape continued. It was past midnight. I went to the door. A pause. A shaky inhale. A man was standing outside. Pale. Tall. Wearing a suit. His smile, the voice trembled. It wasn't right. I felt it then, the weight of something watching me. The voice continued. "If someone knocks after midnight, don't answer." That was rule number 1. At 1:33 a.m., the phone rang. The shrill, jarring sound nearly made me jump out of my skin. My pulse spiked. I shouldn't have answered. But I did. The moment I lifted the receiver, I knew something was wrong. The voice on the other end. It sounded like my mother. My breath hitched. My mother had been dead for 5 years. The voice was soft, distant, layered with static, like an old, warped cassette tape. "Hello?" I whispered, throat tightening. A pause. Then, she said my name. Again. And again. And again. The same tone. The same inflection. A loop. Then, the voice changed. It dropped lower. Slower. "Let me in." I slammed the receiver down, heart pounding. The phone rang again. And again. And again. I didn't pick up. I didn't have to. Because now I understood. If the phone rings after 1 a.m., don't answer. That was rule number 2. The TV turned on at 3 a.m. Static filled the room, the broken hiss curling around me like a whisper. I hadn't touched the remote. Then the image sharpened. It was security footage. My stomach dropped. The cameras weren't showing the parking lot. They were showing me. Not me sitting at the desk. Me. Standing outside. Staring at the front door. And the me on the screen. Was smiling. That's when I learned rule number 3. If the TV turns on by itself, don't look at it. By 4:45 a.m., I was barely holding it together. Then I heard my name. Soft. Almost gentle. It came from room 209. The room that had been empty for years. I should have ignored it. But my feet were already moving. The door was open. Darkness pooled inside. And in the corner, something stood still. "Who's there?" I whispered. A breath of silence. Then, "Come closer." The voice was mine. I ran. I never stopped running. That's when I learned rule number 5. If you hear your name from room 209, don't respond. I don't remember getting home. I don't remember sleeping. I don't remember anything but the breath behind me as I ran. I never went back to the motel. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, the phone still rings.